So let me start my session by a profound statement made by Mahatma Gandhi. It speaks for itself. It says what is really needed to make democracy function is not the knowledge of facts, but actually the right education. Now this is a very important comment for all of us to imbibe and understand what it actually means. Most of the time we always believe that facts are important and nobody is questioning that. But beyond the facts is the right education that can enable to create the right citizens, the future citizens that can make a good country and a society at large. But today what's actually happening is when you look at companies and organizations today, most of the companies today are into the competitive world. They believe that they've got the right products, and I heard somebody in the panel actually talking about it's not about just providing solutions and technologies. What's important today is to first understand what the students and the teachers actually require, and then try and mold the solutions as per what the customer or what the students and the teachers require. But today what's happening is more of an industry-driven approach where the industry believes that they know education. Wow, so that's a very important contrast that we're seeing. The industry believes that they know education, but the fact of the matter is we don't know education. The people out there, they know education. They're education domain experts who know education. What is important today is not to get into a competitive world, but actually not getting into a rat race of chasers, not getting into a rat race where every company comes out with new technologies, new products, new solutions to address the market requirements. I guess what's now important is not about chasing each other company coming out with new technologies, but actually the competition today for us is to address these issues. Can you believe that in 5 years, approximately all the new teachers, 50% of the new teachers in 5 years actually move out of the education system. 50% of new teachers who get into the education system actually move out. That's incredible. 1 out of 7 in the school actually drop out, and actually in India it's actually more than that, right? The workplace is actually becoming more interactive and collaborative. Life is becoming too complex, right? Now these are the issues that are important for us to understand. Now can really technology help us address some of the issues? I think that's the statement that we need to make. Rather than looking at solutions, products, technologies that can really help make education a better place. I don't think that's what's required. What is required is to see how we can address these issues. And that's where the unlimited thought process is required at this point in time. So my belief and our belief at Microsoft is to look at technology not to disrupt education. I guess the word disrupt has become a very common English language being used in every forum. Everybody says, I'm going to bring a disruptive technology that's going to make a huge change in the way we do things, the way we make things, and so on and so forth. But I guess in education, we don't require disruptive technology. What we actually require is to use the technology to harness the full potential of the stakeholders who are involved in the education. So for example, if I go to a teacher and I tell a teacher that, look, I'll help you utilize the full potential to make a difference in how you teach to your students, that's the right statement. Rather than I going to a teacher and telling the teacher, no, whatever you're doing is all okay, it's an old age thing and so on and so forth. I'll come here, I'll intervene in technology that will transform education. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Likewise, students. You can't expect a student to suddenly go from an X place to a Y place and expect them to embrace technology. I know students today are very, I would say, the millennials today are a highly gadget-friendly thing. But are they really doing the serious education? I don't think so. Most of the time they actually do gamings and surfing and so on and so forth, right? So the way we look at education or the intervention of technology in education is not about disruption, but actually using the technology to fully create or harness the potential of the stakeholders who are into education. And from that standpoint, I just want to leave you this slide. What does this slide actually depicts? Can somebody tell me? What does this slide actually depicts? Exactly. This is our today's classroom, right? This is way that you have a table and a chair, and there's a blackboard out there, and there is a teacher's space, and so on and so forth, right? And what is this? Sorry? Yeah, exactly. It's like a shop floor, right? Do you see any difference between this one and this one? Not much, right? It's the same thing. That's a classroom. Sorry, the earlier one was a classroom. And this is a shop floor. What do you do there? In a shop floor, you've been told what to do. You've been taught what to do. There is a set policies that you have to follow, and so on and so forth. Where is a mechanism to embrace creative thinking? Where is a mechanism to create a collaborative and communicative environment? Is that what is required in today's workforce? The answer is no. Today's workforce is what we look at the 4 C's. The 4 C's is collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. If you go to today's workforce, you will see these 4 C's are the pillars on which the workforce or the companies start looking at people. When I go for my interviews and when I look at students, these are the 4 things that I look at. Education is important, understood, but I'm not looking towards a student who's doing a rote learning. I'm looking towards students who have these forces in them. Collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. That's what today's workforce is. So, that being the case, what are we saying? We are basically saying that we have now entered a digital learning age, where on the top, the technology interventions, the falling cost of technology, the broadband availability, and the next generation techniques are available. And on the bottom of the pyramid, you have students who have very high expectations on what they want to learn, how they want to learn, and why they want to learn. Okay? So you have a huge, I would say, glue that's happening, wherein you have a technology that can enable this to meet the students' aspirations. And all the ones that we were talking about in the middle, like a learning mobility, ubiquitous acquires, cloud computing, these are all enablers to finally make the student a workforce for the 21st century skills. Now, how many of you have seen the HP ad very recently? You've seen, right? Now, that advertisement that you see in the TV actually depicts what today's millennials are. How many of you have heard the word millennials? Awesome, good. Now, this is a very important point. When we say millennials, we're talking about workforce who do not care as to what rules are, what processes are, what political environments are, and so on and so forth. They believe that here is a requirement, here is a market, and I will go and address the market in a way that is help me create the mass out of getting into the mass market, right? That's the millennials that we're looking towards. And the HP ad, if you remember, so you have those 4 suited, booted people with ties, and there is a guy who's a millennial who's probably 25-year-old kid with a laptop, and the 4 gentlemen who are in their probably late 30s and early 40s, they make fun out of this guy and say, "Badal gaya zamana." Right? They say, okay, haan, theek hai, koi hoga, fresher hoga, and so on and so forth. And then they enter into a conference room with their CEO, and the CEO goes ahead and introduces the person and says, he's your investor. A 25-year-old kid with a laptop is an investor in the company in which these people are actually be the employees of that company. That's the real world that we're talking about. Are you guys aware that India has got the 2nd largest startup companies in the world after UK? 2nd largest startup company in the world. But that's the reality. That's the Indian condition that we're talking about. No longer are we talking about, the traditional workforce. We no longer be talking about traditional people who will get into some company and so on and so forth. Today the millennials are thinking very differently. And is today's school environment actually enabling that type of thought process? I don't think so. Right? So that's where we need to look at how we can use technology to create a disruption, or not disruption, but to harness the full potential of the stakeholders who are involved in education. And I'll just share with you what I mean by intervention of technology. It's a video case study on how people can use technology to remove the boundaries, the so-called geographical boundaries. Please.
Ay, qué grosero. ¿Te encuentras en América del Norte? Yes. Do you live in Central Mexico? Sí. ¿Te encuentras en Estados Unidos de América? Yes. Do you live in a capital city? Sí. ¿Estás cerca de Seattle? We're very close to Seattle. Are you in Mexico City? Sí. ¿Estás en Tacoma? Yes. Very good guess. Gracias. Thank you. Do you like living in Mexico City? ¿Te gusta vivir en la Ciudad de México? Aquí está muy lindo. Here is very nice. What do you do for fun? ¿Qué haces para divertirte? Voy a las playas de México. I'm going to the beaches of Mexico. I like to swim. Me gusta nadar. A mí también. Me too. Where in the world do you wish to travel? ¿A dónde en el mundo te gustaría viajar? A Rusia. To Russia. ¿Y tú? And you? Everywhere. Sería increíble algún día verte en México. It would be amazing to see you someday in Mexico. I would really like to visit you sometime. Me gustaría mucho visitarte algún día. A mí también. Me too.
Okay, what do you guys see here? Can somebody give me a little, I'd say a 1 minute brief on what actually you saw here? Anybody? Sorry, ma'am? Yep, that's right. Yes, ma'am.
Exchange of ideas. Okay, thank you. Exchange of ideas. Then the way one looks at various things. So we can exchange our ideas, or we can come to know what are the similarities and differences between us and the people maybe somewhere else at some other place in the world. So that leads to probably something called as a global culture.
Yep.
So
good one. Thanks so much.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. I
would like to say something.
Sorry.
This actually speaks about that no boundaries no more. Actually, we all are connected, and small. World is now very small. We can be with anyone, anytime. It's just one click away.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think all of you guys are right. But one thing that I was looking towards was that if you look at that video, the so-called communication language no longer became a boundary. Right? Yeah, so there was the students who were in Mexico, and there were students in US. The US students was continuously speaking in English, and the Mexican students were speaking the native language, and they were able to communicate effectively without any lag. It was as real time as it could have been. Now that's what we call the power of technology. And that's where we say that the power of technology can actually help reduce those boundaries, so-called boundaries in terms of geographies, in terms of communication, in terms of language, and so on and so forth. Right? So this is one environment that I wanted to share with you. The other thing at Microsoft, what we're doing is we have created a couple of tools that can enable both teacher and student to think, to express, to collaborate and record. Now, you know, if you go to the Microsoft, even if most of you I'm sure would be having Windows, Go to OneNote. How many of you have used OneNote? All right. It's such a powerful tool. It's like a notebook for you, right? You can actually create your entire notes into one page in which you have audio, video, text, everything into one thing. And the most important thing is the real-time collaboration. Today in Microsoft, we don't use pen and paper at all. We've stopped using it. We only use OneNote. Very effective, right? The other thing that we use, so this is what we call as a OneNote collaboration, where the students and the teachers can create a page which is as collaborative as it could be in a real-time environment. You can embed audio content, you can embed video content, and so on and so forth. From a teacher community standpoint, unfortunately, I don't have that video. I realized that the person out there doesn't have the Office 2013 or 2016. So in Office 2013 and Office 2016, there is an icon which we introduced called an Office Mix. Then Office Mix, if you just click it, it's a video content authoring tool. It's a creation and an authoring tool. It's as simple as you just click start recording. You can annotate your presentation slide. You can record your voice. You can again put it on a OneNote, and then you can share it in a real-time environment. How many of you have heard about this tool called Sway? If not, please go www.sway.com. It's a very powerful tool in helping creating content, especially for the teaching community. It's very simple, very effective, very powerful. It enables you to get video content from multiple sources and put it in one environment without taking into consideration any of those format files and so on and so forth, right? So bottom line, what I'm saying is that there are enough tools which are available in the market from Microsoft that can enable teacher and a student to use these technologies to fully harness their potential. So don't look at technology as a disruptor, look at technology as an enabler to realize the full potential. And I want to end my presentation by a quote by Satya Nadella. We're very proud that one of us has actually become the CEO of Microsoft. And his statement is, learning is now our imperative. A profound statement again. Learning is now our imperative. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hearing and listening. And I'm available out here for Q&As. And probably we can also have Q&A session, or you can meet up with me later on also for offline discussions. Thanks so much. Any questions? Okay.
Microsoft going for differently every people, as in who are visually impaired. I asked them question because my best friend is blind. So,
We're doing a lot, ma'am. We're doing a lot in accessibility. You know, diversity and inclusion is one of our big pillars when we talk about education. And probably I can take you offline. Most of our products today are accessibility ready, which means that a visually impaired person can actually see the websites. So the product that we have is a SharePoint portal, SharePoint product that is accessibility friendly. The Office product that we have, which is a front end for any device, that's accessible ready. So there's a lot that we're doing out here. And we're also working with various state governments in driving accessibility in all our solutions also.
Are these any of these open source software? I mean,
No,
are they
we're not.
downloadable?
So, okay, so Microsoft is a proprietary organization, but please understand that we embrace open source in a big manner. Okay, so today I would say we've got the largest congregation of open source applications on our Microsoft cloud than anybody else in the market. So we don't compete. We work with them, we embrace them, and that's the new Microsoft for you guys. We don't compete, we embrace them.